Good morning, students. This is the sixth video of your chapter supply. In the last video, we had done the reasons for the upward slope of supply curve and we had done the exceptions to the law of supply. Today for module 6, we will be doing movement along the same supply curve and shift in the supply curve topic in full details. So this module will complete the law of supply portion of this chapter, and on Monday we will discuss elasticity of supply in a better manner. This is the topic of discussion of the module 6, movement along the same supply curve and shift in the supply curve and the various types of these two. Movement happens due to change in only price of the commodity, and shift happens due to change in other factors affecting supply other than the price. You remember we had done the concept of factors affecting supply. So the most important factor was price, and with that there were other factors like input prices, price of related commodities, technology, right? Climatic factors, natural factors, all these were there. So these were the non-price or the other factors. So there are two categories of factors. One is price and one is other factors affecting supply other than the price. Price of related commodity, input prices, technology. Okay. So movement happens due to change in price, and the shift in the supply curve happens due to change in other factors affecting supply other than the price. Movement is of two types, expansion of supply and contraction of supply, and shift is of two types, increase in supply and decrease in supply. In movement, either there is downward or upward movement along the same supply curve, and in the concept of shift, the entire curve shifts towards rightward side or leftward side. Now we'll be discussing the concept of movement in detail. I told you movement happens due to change in only price. Okay, so this is x-axis, this is y-axis, price, quantity supplied. You will first make x-axis, y-axis 0, you will make the price, you will make the quantity supplied. Then you will make a supply curve SS. Okay, you will make a supply curve SS. P is the initial price, Q is the initial quantity, P and Q. Follow the route P and Q. Mark a point called A. Okay, when the price is increasing, the quantity is also increasing. When the price is increasing, quantity is also increasing. So there is a movement, upward movement from position A to position B. This is called expansion of supply. In the same manner, when the price decreases, the quantity also falls. Okay, price is decreasing from P to P2. Quantity is also decreasing from Q to Q2. So when the price falls and the quantity decreases, that is called contraction of supply, shown by A to C. A to C. This is the concept of movement along the same supply curve. Shift in the supply curve occurs due to change in other factors affecting supply. Okay, for example, when the technology is better technology is there, technology improves, there will be increase in supply, and when the technology has become old, there will be decrease in supply. A new technology will lead to increase in supply, and a old technology will lead to decrease in supply. You have to see one thing. Whenever there is shift in the supply curve, the price remains the same. The shift happens due to change in other factors affecting supply, and the price remains the same. The price will not change. This is x-axis, this is y-axis. 0, price, quantity supplied. Mark x-axis, mark y-axis, price, quantity supplied 0. price, you make a line called P, that is price. You make a line called P, that is price. You make a curve SS and there you mark the quantity as Q. Mark a position A. Same way you make a supply curve S1 S1, mark a position B, quantity Q1. Okay, now when the technology has improved, supply has increased, quantity supplied increased due to the shift, but the price remains the same. The increase in supply is because of the technology. In the same manner, when the technology becomes old or obsolete, obsolete means old technology. So when the technology becomes obsolete, quantity is Q, the supply will decrease. Is there any change in price? No, the price remains constant at P. The supply decreases or the supply curve shifts towards leftward side. This A to C position signifies decrease in supply. The quantity falls from Q to Q2 because of the old technology. The next concept is expansion of supply and contraction of supply. Both these concepts are of movement along the same supply curve. Expansion of supply and contraction of supply are both the types of movement. Okay, in expansion, the quantity supplied will increase due to rise in price, and in contraction, the quantity supplied will decrease due to fall in price. Expansion, the supply is increasing due to rise in price. Contraction, the supply is decreasing due to fall in price. It is caused due to rise in price. Contraction is caused due to fall in price. In expansion, there is upward movement along the same supply curve, and in contraction, there is downward movement along the same supply curve. See the diagrams. We have discussed this right now. Okay, very easy. X-axis, Y-axis, price, quantity supplied 0. X, Y, price, quantity supplied 0. Make a supply curve SS. Make position A, make position B. Okay, P, when the price increases from P to P1, the quantity increases from Q to Q1. Again, when the price increases from P to P1, the quantity increases from Q to Q1. So there is upward movement along the same supply curve. Coming on to contraction, when does contraction happens? When there is fall in price. When does contraction happens? When there is fall in price. Again, diagram, X and Y axis 0. Okay, in X you mark quantity supplied, here you mark price. X0, Y, price, quantity supplied, mark S. First you make the supply curve SS. Make a supply curve like this SS. So initially the price will be P and Q. Following the route, I have told you many a times. This is P, follow the route, this will become Q. P, Q. When the price falls, the quantity also decreases. Okay. When the price is falling from P to P1, the quantity also decreases from Q to Q1. So there is downward movement from A to B. When the price falls, quantity decreases, downward movement from A to B, showing contraction of supply. The next topic is increase in supply and decrease in supply. Both these concepts are regarding the shift of the supply curve. It means the increase in supply and decrease in supply happens due to change in other factors and the price remains the same. In increase in supply, the quantity supplied increases due to change in other factors, and in decrease in supply, the quantity supplied decreases. In increase, it increases. In decrease, the quantity supplied decreases. Okay. Increase in supply leads to rightward shift of the entire supply curve, and decrease in supply leads to leftward shift of the entire supply curve. Let's take the diagram of increase in supply and decrease in supply. This is the diagram of increase in supply. Okay, we take the example here that suppose the technology, the state of technology has improved. Okay, so at the same price, initial supply curve is SS. Due to change in technology, supply curve moved from SS to S1, S1. Okay, due to improvement in technology, due to a better technology, the supply increases from SS to S1. Now the price is remaining the same. The change is because of improvement in technology. So the quantity will increase from Q to Q1, but the price will remain the same. There will be a rightward shift from S to S1, S1. Now in decrease in supply, suppose what is happening that the technique used has become obsolete and old. Okay, the technique has become old. So there will be decrease in the supply, right? Because of old technique of production being used, old technology being used, obsolete technology is being used, so the supply is decreasing from S to S1, S1. Okay, initially the price will remain the same at P. Initially the supply curve was SS. Due to obsolete or old technology of production, supply decreased from SS to S1, S1. Quantity also decreased. There is a leftward shift from A to B, showing decrease in supply. Now, we do the difference between expansion of supply and increase in supply. The basic difference between the two concepts is expansion is a concept of movement and increase in supply is a concept of shift. Again, expansion of supply is a concept of movement and increase in supply is a concept of shift of supply curve. Okay, quantity supplied of a commodity increases due to rise in price. Expansion is due to change in price and increase in supply is due to change in other factors. Okay, so when the price is rising, there is expansion of supply, and in this quantity supplied increases due to change in other factors. Again, the same point. The own price, when it rises, there is expansion of supply, and increase in supply occurs due to change in other factors affecting expansion of supply is a concept of movement along the same supply curve. So in expansion there is upward movement along the same supply curve, and increase is a concept of shift. So there is a rightward shift of the entire supply curve. See the diagrams. In expansion you can see when the price increases, quantity increases. Price increases, quantity increases, upward movement from A to B. Right? We have done this diagram earlier also in the last module. And in increase in supply, we have done till just now P at the same price. Okay? At the same price, the quantity is increasing. At the same price, due to change in other factors, the quantity is increasing. There is a rightward shift of the supply curve. Now, the concept of contraction of supply and decrease in supply. Contraction of supply happens due to change in own price, that is fall in price, and decrease in supply happens due to change in other factors. So again, contraction of supply is a concept of movement along the same supply curve, and decrease in supply is a concept of shift in supply curve. Okay, so quantity supplied of a commodity decreases due to fall in price. Contraction happens due to the price change, and this happens due to change in other factors. Quantity supplied of a commodity decreases due to fall in price, and here quantity supplied decreases due to change in other factors affecting supply. Now, contraction of supply, it occurs due to fall in own price of the commodity. Contraction happens why? It occurs due to fall in own price of the commodity. And decrease in supply, it happens due to change in other factors affecting supply. Decrease in supply happens due to change in other factors affecting supply. In contraction, there is movement and decrease in shift. So In contraction, there is downward movement along the same supply curve, and in decrease, there is leftward shift of the entire supply curve. Moving on to the diagram, this is the last slide of this chapter. Contraction of supply. I told you there is a downward movement. When the price falls from P to P1, when the price falls from P to P1, the quantity supplied decreases. The price falls from P to P1, the quantity supplied decreases. From Q to Q1, there is a downward movement along the same supply curve. And in decrease in supply, what is happening? At the same price, due to change in other factors, the supply is decreasing. Okay, again I am repeating, at the same price remains the same due to change in factors other than price, other factors affecting supply. Okay, there is a shift from S to S1, S1. The quantity supplied decreases from Q to Q1. Okay, quantity supplied is decreasing and supply curve is shifting from SS to S1, S1. There is a leftward shift. Okay, leftward shift showing from A to B position, SS to S1, S1. Now this is the concept of decrease in supply. Thank you, students.